Morning, guys. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone is doing well. It is the 23rd of July, and this is your daily market outlook for today. Before we get into any video of the charts, just understand that the content on this YouTube channel and with anything I do, including my course, is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing shared in my videos or in my course should be considered financial investment or trading advice. Trading and investing involves risk, and you should always conduct your own research before making any financial decisions. Understand that any past performance is discussed does not guarantee future results. You are responsible, as always, for your own financial decisions. Okay, so let's jump into Forex Factory. So yesterday, obviously, we had the Great British Pound, CPI news. That was the only red folder, as you guys can see. And then going into today, we have some red folder news for at 2.15 for the euro. We've had some red folder news in regards to the Australian dollar, during obviously us being asleep. So yeah, going into the rest of today, just keep an eye out on euro to obviously have an impact on the charts with the red folder news. And then tomorrow we don't have anything for Friday in regards to red folder. So yeah, just mainly today. So let's see what happens in regards to that. Okay, going into the charts, let's just have a look at what's gone on since we discussed the last daily market outlook yesterday. We're still in this daily supply. You can see that yesterday's candle, if we just zoom in, in fact, let me get rid of this. You can see that yesterday's candle obviously finished like this. Very, very consolidating to be fair, but it's finished where it's not give us any true direction of knowing where the market's going to fully go to. Um, so obviously that is something to maybe just think about. The fact that we've had this bullishness past few days, you can see that we left a little gap here, and it seems like that's where market has dipped into today. And then could that be the catapult upwards? We'll obviously we'll find out on what we think on the lower time frames. But again, that could be a possibility that now that market's slowed down, it's failing to go and break that low. We're obviously consolidating, so we've got to play both sides basically. But as you can see, this candle has touched into that daily demand, and it is slowing down a hell of a lot, which means that we could see more bullishness come in. But going into the full, what can we see? Well, pretty much the same as yesterday. We discussed the fact that we obviously had this range. We have this range. We had this 4 hour supply area here. Markets obviously come into that 4 hour supply, but the one thing we got to obviously keep in mind is the fact that even though this is a 4 hour range and we're in this 4 hour supply, we have this internal 1 hour trend going on at this moment in time. So if he was to go bullish, personally, it would for me it would be from this 4 hour demand. Yes, you can obviously mark out, for instance, this whole consolidated area, but just the way that I trade, I would either go off the this candle or these two candles. And at this moment in time, we've not met that just yet. Again, we've still got a lot of imbalance. So this is why this 4 hour demand area for me would be my preferred area. Now, going into potential shorts, you can see what's happened today is we've tapped into obviously that supply yesterday. Markets been consolidating. Now we've had this candle which broke away. Now, the next thing that tells us is if you look at the wicks that we've had a candle closure. Markets now pulled back into this 4 hour candle where we had the imbalance. Can we now potentially see the US dollar start carrying on short from here? That is my main thought going into this daily market outlook. If we drop down to the one, you can see that you can start to refine that potentially to around this 1 hour, or you can go off this last candle here as a 1 hour supply area. So as you can see, we've tapped into that, and now market is just deciding whether it is going to obviously carry on shorting or not. So definitely keep an eye out on this area, and see if market is going to give us that change of trend to basically participate in dollar shorts. So that's what I've got for the dollar today. Euro USD, let's have a look. So looking at the US dollar, sorry, Euro USD, you can see the fact that we talked about it coming back into this demand yesterday. We've had that bullishness. We broke this supply that we had. Remember, we had this supply and this supply. This supply being the more favorable one because it's at the extreme um, of this range that we have. So we come into this supply, you can see, consolidated, failed to obviously go and break the new low low, and then market obviously give us that reaction to go into this 4 hour supply area now. So we had a slight move away from there. But again, does that short align with, longs here? For me, no, because I've been obviously favoring this area. But again, that doesn't mean that the dollar doesn't carry on long, of course. But looking at this, what I am personally interested in is getting the dollar into this demand. Now, at this moment in time, we're in this supply right now. If we was to carry on shorting, obviously Euro USD isn't in the demand area. So of course, unless Euro USD gives us some sort of volume into, between now and candle closure, which is 50 odd minutes, to obviously then potentially participate, but we'll have to wait and see. But for me personally, this is my more favorable area, fill in the rest of this imbalance, and then get that move away if the dollar carries on shorting. Okay, now going into GBP USD, let's see what she's doing. A little bit different to Euro USD. You can see that we're in this forward demand area still. Yesterday we obviously had that slight reaction, but it has been pretty much consolidated in this range here. Again, if you focus on the daily, this black line and this black line is the daily, so that's the daily higher low, and that is the daily higher high. So if we was to go and create a new daily high now, this would be the swing area in order for us to do that. So, let's see if we can potentially catch a swing area with GBP USD. So looking at the fall, there's not much that I can discuss truthfully. Just looking at this, because obviously we're still inside of this consolidation, as I just said. But if you jump down to the one, can we see anything different? Okay, so looking at where market is at, yes, it's ugly. Yes, like I said, it is sideways, it is consolidating. But if you focus on the fact that we had this institutional candle away from this zone, market came back into this area of demand. We've slowly started to get a reaction away again. Now, where's market coming to? Well, you can probably see I've obviously marked out this 1 hour demand area. We've also taken out the Asian low at this moment with this wick, which is again another confluence. And then if you look at the way that the candle has finished, for me as well, that looks positive again, and it would align with the dollar going short from here. So again, you can wait and see how this candle closure finishes. See we finish bullish and then potentially participate with that. But this is a nice looking candle away from here. So, if the dollar does carry on shorting, this is 100% the area in which I will be waiting for GU to carry on giving us them longs away from. So hopefully that makes sense. Of course, like I said, demand area, Asian low taken, body of this candle is finished nicely. Can we now see market carry on? NZUSD, I really don't like the look of. If I'm being honest, I had a look at it before jumping on here. We've reacted from this daily supply, we've taken out the high. We're now obviously making our way into this daily demand area. But if you look at the lower time frames, you'd be more favouring personally the shorts than the longs. The reason I don't like it is just because we didn't react from any supply area. We've had market dump off, slow down, dump off. But the one thing I can notice is if you look at this, you can see this is where market has come into. So what I mean by that is when we dumped off, we obviously consolidated, failed to have a pullback, then we dumped away again, consolidated, and almost tapped into that. So, you can see during Asian, we've had this move away. Now, for me personally, it would be interesting to see how this 40, we've got 48 minutes left on this candle, how this candle closes. So if it closes as it is, and it aligns with the dollar, of course, we could have a potential for our supply area here. Um, but I'm also aware, and you guys should be as well, even though this is a for our supply, what can we notice? We can notice that we've created equal highs during the Asian, and we have this for our supply above, where market can obviously do this. Take out the highs, tap into the supply, fill in a tiny little bit imbalance that we have left, and then get that move away. So what I'm trying to say to you guys is just be extremely aware that if you are marking up this for our supply, we do have liquidity and unmitigated for our supply. So for me, what I would do is I would wait to see when market gets into these zones, either this zone or this zone, wait to see how the candle finishes, how it closes, and then make a decision from there. Just quickly as well, you can see the reason it's reacting is if you look at this, you can see this little trap area that we have on the 4 is where we are. We had a slight imbalance below these wicks, and that's where market is now slowed down. So again, if the dollar was to carry on shorting from here, then this could be the reason why the reason why you could get into potential longs on NZUSD. Let's have a look at AUDUSD, a little bit nicer, or to be fair, a lot nicer than NZUSD. Um, you guys will, let's have a quick look at the daily. You guys will obviously know that we're still in this daily supply. Still been consolidating, nothing really as clean as we would like. And also, as I mentioned yesterday, we haven't come into like this daily demand area just yet as well, which is a bit shit, but it is what it is. If you go into the 4 hour, you can see that it's a little bit more nicer. And what I mean by that is we obviously had not the pullback we wanted into the extreme level of this demand. We tapped into this imbalance. Then we got this move away. Markets come back down, back into this imbalance, sorry, into this demand area that we have here. And then obviously now start to move away. This candle, I like the look of. I really like the look of this candle, which is obviously aligned with the dollar. And that's why this 4 hour demand area would be my more favorable favorable area as well if the dollar does carry on shorting, because it would align perfectly. We might have this kind of closure. We've still left some imbalance. We could have another dip, and the market could obviously carry away from this 4 hour demand area. So pretty simple to understand for AUD/USD. AUD/USD, GU looks similar-ish, and EU looks similar-ish as well. But again, EU's not into this demand just yet. Okay, let's have a look at USD CAD. Beautiful area that we called out yesterday. As you guys can see, let me just quickly show you this before moving on. Hopefully some of you guys seen this after I did the daily market outlook and caught it. Again, depending how small your stop loss was, if it was 7, but this is what I caught. I think it was 6.5 that I had. It was a 1 to 3 here. That's what I caught. But as you guys can see, we did roughly with my stop loss at around a 1 to 6.5, just over 1 to 6.5, which is pretty good. But yeah, let's have a look at what we can see today. Daily time frame, haven't reached that daily supply yet. So yeah, obviously we talked about that, but the 4 hour and the lower time frames tell us a little bit different. We also do have this daily demand area here as well, which if you look, we've now also pretty much created them equal lows, which is liquidity. So looking at the 4, what can we see? What can we see? So they're them daily equal lows that I just said. I'm going to keep them on the daily for now. Okay. So what we can currently see is obviously we had the reaction away from the supply. So internal is bearish, but we had from this low to this high as our 4 hour range. You can see the 4 hour range was pull back here and then expansion again. So we're inside of this 4 hour demand area. So we could potentially obviously have this be our area to carry on. But if the dollar's going to carry on shorting potentially, then I am more interested in obviously looking for shorting ideas with USD CAD. Now, first thing that draws my eye is the fact that we have this imbalance still to fill from this candle here. So we have a 4 hour supply area here. As you guys can see, we've still got a lot of imbalance or a little bit of imbalance to fill. I can just zoom in so you can see that. You can see from this wick to where we are now is imbalance to fill. If it does jump down to the 1 hour, it's probably going to look a lot better. And what I mean by that is you can see that we have this 4 hour supply. And then what we could potentially do is come into around this area here as our next 1 hour supply area. So you can see a lot of imbalance to fill. Could we see market come into here and then of course carry on shorting. I am going to refine this now, by the way, just to this 1 hour demand, so it's not a big ugly box, but you can see filled in all this imbalance, tapped into this last area, and then obviously markets had this move away. Now my other thing is, of course, let's say the dollar does carry on bullish, and obviously we have to make a decision to then look for, the opposite to what we're talking about now. This looks clean. We've had Asian lows taken out inside of a demand area, and now we're getting this market move away. So you could potentially see if you can get into, them longs inside of the lower time frames or even just the 1 hour time frame, if the dollar does carry on longing. So like I said, I'd be interested in waiting to see how this candle closure finishes, 40 minutes left, and let's say it finishes engulfed. You could obviously look for market to then just carry on and then see how we react when we get into this supply area, of course. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But this is perfect, Asian entry model that I teach inside of the course that you guys who do the course should know. Asian low taken. So let's see what happens with that. USD CHF, let's have a look from a daily. You can see from this demand, it has been nothing but bullishness. So we've called that demand out pretty clean. If you look at the 4, you can see it's pretty corrective, nothing really confusing. It's like I said, pretty corrective. So I'm going to delete this now. I'm going to delete this as well. And as you can see, the move today that's happened is from this demand area. We've had pullback, expansion, pullback, tapped into this demand, now this expansion. So again, 40 minutes left on this candle. If this candle finishes as it is, engulfed, with this candle, and it finishes with a large body, I would potentially be looking for this area here as our next 4 hour demand. But again, we have to wait to see how this body finishes. And that's obviously, again, if we do carry on bullish with the dollar, which, like I said, it could potentially still happen. 110%. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Let's see what happens. There's nothing that I can see for shorts. In order for me to participate in USD CHF shorts, I would need to see this broke. So if, for instance, we have a break of this low, then you've gone internal bullish to internal bearish, and then you could obviously try and participate in that. But yeah, let's see. Same with GUSD Japanese yen. I don't need to go to the daily. You can see the internal's been pretty similar to USD CHF. It's been bullish. Beautiful reaction from this demand that we said. The supply failed to hold because, of course, we have stuck bullish as well. And then obviously dollar was more bullish and didn't have the supply take control as much as we would want yesterday. But if you look at USD Japanese yen, pretty clear for you guys to probably see. The next area would be if this candle closes as it does, I would be looking for this as a next 4 hour demand area. And ideally, the one thing I want you guys to focus on as well is you want to really see market slower coming into these demand areas, like, consolidate a little bit slower. And then obviously that will be a more better area. You don't want to see if we have this next candle open and it's one large candle into this, and let's just make it red. You don't want to necessarily always see that, because that is volume into the markets, which means that it could just be market looking to just carry on shorting. So ideally, you want to see it slowly, volume slow down, as you can see from all these zones. Slow, slow, market come down, volume slow down, etc., etc. So let's see how these candles do finish. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because, like I said, we are in that demand at supply, but it seems like we're looking bullish today so far. So in order for us to, participate in these shorts, we need to see something significant at this moment in time, because it does look like the dollar is extremely bullish as of this morning. But yeah, let's keep an eye out on that, and see what is going on. GU should have broke this now. Yep, GU has broke. So that is, for me, at this moment in time, when this candle finishes, invalid. Let's see. But other than that, guys, I appreciate every single person tuning into this YouTube video. And we will catch up tomorrow on the next one. Take care. God bless.